Hey, what's good, everybody? My name is Wan Morgan, and today we're going to be talking about stand-up comedy, but in particular, we're going to be talking about how to write a joke, how to craft a set or a routine, and we're going to be talking about how to read an audience. But before I get into all of that, I just want to give you all some background information about comedy that I feel that would be very helpful. I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 7 years now. And a lot of people ask the question, well, how did you know you wanted to get into that? How did you know that was your thing? I'll give you my story. Okay, so I was in college, and I started uploading videos to YouTube. Funny videos, I would share them around, and they would get great responses. Like, everybody thought they were funny. And, and I kind of felt like, I was on to something, so I was like, I asked all of my friends, I said, do y'all think that I could, do stand-up, do stand-up comedy? And all of them said no. But I really wondered about it. I felt like I can do it. So one day, I found out there was an open mic at Looney Bin Comedy Club in Little Rock. I signed up for it. Me and my friend Morris, we went up there and I did the open mic. And that's where I knew. A lot of people ask, is it a calling or, or do you have to be naturally funny? Those are hard questions to ask. The only thing that I can say from my experience is that the first time that I went up on stage, I felt like I was at home. And that's the best description that I can give. It's like when I had that microphone and I was talking and I was speaking and doing all of my jokes and everything, it didn't feel like an unfamiliar place, and I feel like that's where I knew deep down in my soul this was something that I love, and it was true. And it's when you're doing something that you love, it's like you can have a bad experience, but it won't scare you off. Think about it. Everybody has had some barbecue chicken that somebody didn't know how to grill and they burnt the chicken, right? And when you bit it, it was hard. It had all the little black burnt crispies on it and all that kind of stuff. And it was awful, but it didn't scare you away from barbecue. You know what I'm saying? Because you know that chicken is better than that. You know what I'm saying? So you go back. That's the same way, I feel about comedy. I've been up there. I've had some horrible experiences on stage, but you know what? It didn't stop me because I know that it could be much better than that. And the payoff from being able to make people laugh and to just control a crowd and then do all that and be up there, it was great. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I knew, that I can say that I knew this is something that I wanted to do, And having that said, I feel the need to say this. The title comedian is thrown around a lot nowadays, especially with, the emergence of social media and things like that. There's a lot of people who get on social media, get on a platform, TikTok, Instagram, and they'll say, hey, I got 1 million followers now. Now I'm a stand-up comedian. That is false. Listen, that is a common misconception, a misunderstanding that people have. Listen, having a lot of followers, and making content online is great if you're good at it. Making content online, is a good thing, but it doesn't mean that you're a stand-up comedian. The only way that you'll become a stand-up comedian is if you actually go on stage and perform and perfect the craft that way. That is the only way that you're a stand-up comedian, because that's happening a lot now. You have people, they're famous on TikTok, so they automatically think they're able to go on stage. Just because you got 1 million views on TikTok, farting in the bathtub, that doesn't mean that you can go on stage and work a crowd. So in a lot of situations, you have a lot of these big names on TikTok. They get on stage and they are garbage. So listen, stand-up comedy, it's an art form, and pretty much like any other art form, you have to do the work to be good at it. You have to go perfect the craft, grind. And in that, you'll develop, something that's great and that's beautiful, change a lot of people's lives. I'm serious. So as we get into this, when it comes to the creative process and when it comes to art, and creating art, there's no one set way to do things, right? So I don't want you, as far as the creative part of this video, I don't want you to look at this and be like, okay, well, that's how you create a joke. And that's how you do it. No, listen, everybody is different. Everybody is unique. Everybody's thought processes are different, so I want you to look at this as just a guide to get started, and if this is something that you're interested in, use this as a guide, but in your journey to comedy, you'll find your own way to do things. You have to find your own identity. You have to find out how you come up with ideas. This is the way I do it, so, if it works for you, fine, but, you may do it a completely different way. One more thing before we get started. A lot of people are scared of bombing. Bombing is where you do bad, you get up there, you're telling jokes, nobody laughs, and everybody, especially people starting out, you hear them say, I hope I don't bomb. I hope I don't do bad. And they ask the question, well, what'll happen if I get up there and nobody laughs? And I'll be like, that means you suck. But listen, bombing is just as important to your develop as a comedian as being funny is. Bombing is essential. People don't look at it that way, but it is. Bombing is a very necessary part of the journey. And I'll tell you why. Everything that you learn as a stand-up comedian, you'll learn it in real time, right? Like you can watch videos like this, you can read books, you can go ask for advice, you can perform in the mirror, but you don't learn things until you're actually in the moment and you see it for yourself. Then you go back and watch the videos and you'll be like, okay, that's what that video was talking about. That's what that book was talking about. So you need bombing to make mistakes, to learn from your mistakes and to become a better comedian. Also, you need bombing to form your set. Bombing, you have to bomb to know whether your jokes work or not, and that goes into part of building a set, which I'll get into that, a little bit later. And also, bombing, you have to learn how to bomb. Just like you have to learn how to be funny, you have to learn how to bomb. Because listen, it doesn't always go well, and when you're first starting out and you're bombing and you're doing bad, you start to panic. Your heart gets to racing, your palms get sweaty, you forget your material, the room starts getting bigger than what it is, the air seems like it's getting thicker and you panic, but bombing can happen to you anytime in your career. So you see a lot of professional comedians or comedians that's been doing it for a long time. When they're bombing, they're able to sit up there and bomb and not panic. You have to do that because, like, say, for instance, you're getting paid to do 30 minutes of comedy, right? You're getting paid to do 30 minutes of comedy and you're bombing. You're doing bad. Your first instinct is like, okay, I got to cut this off, But if you have a contract to do 30 minutes and you do 28 minutes, it's possible that you won't get paid. You see, so professional comedians, even though it's not going bad, they're still able to pace themselves, tell the joke, and even though it's not getting laughs, they can finish it in the allotted time that they want to finish it in. And that's something that you have to be able to do. And that's something you'll learn how to do in the grind as you go along, So don't be scared of bombing. If you're interested in becoming a comedian, bombing is going to happen. You can't get away from it. So you have to embrace it and you have to take it, for what it is. And with that, let's get into writing a joke. Okay. Jokes all have a basic formula, right? It's called a setup, and a punchline, right? The setup is where you're introducing the joke, to the crowd. The punchline is the part where everyone laughs, right? Why did the chicken cross the road? Setup. To get to the other side. Punchline. My wife got a facelift the other day. Setup. Turns out she had one just like it right underneath. Punchline. So, back in the day, in the old days, they used to have the comedian up there, and they would be telling the jokes, and there would be a guy on the drums, and he'd tell the joke, and he'd tell the joke, and when he told it, it'll go, psh. All right. So those jokes are called one-liners, right? We've all the jokes that we hear, that we see on the back of Laffy Taffy boxes and, and all of that growing up through elementary school. Those are the basic jokes that we've always heard. They're called one-liners. There's a basic setup. There's a basic punchline, right? Knock, knock. Who's there? Orange. Orange who? Orange, you're glad I didn't say, but anyway, those are one-liners, right? So, and that was the popular way of, doing comedy for a long time. But then came a person named Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor is considered to be the king of comedy because when Richard Pryor came along, he introduced the style of comedy that we see today. It wasn't the one-liner where you just do one line and thing. It was more conversational. It was more telling stories, and it was more talking and, things like that. After he made that popular, that's how everyone does comedy now, right? So anybody that you see does comedy like that. Kevin Hart, Cat Williams, DC Young Fly, Dave Chappelle. Everybody gets up there, and it's not just one-liners anymore. They do stories, and they talk to the audience and do things like that. Well, even though that comedy is more conversational now, and now that you tell more stories and all that, it still follows the formula of setup and punchline. You never get away from that. And you have to set up your jokes. You have to give a setup and a punchline, because a lot of times comedians will get up there that are just starting out and they don't have that formula. And if you don't have the formula of setup and punchline, then you're just up there. You're up there doing a sermon. That's what you're doing. You're up there doing a TED Talk, So you have to do a setup and punchline. So let's look into a few things. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some clips from one of my favorite comedians, Roy Jr., right? And when he's doing the setup, I'm going to hold up one finger. And when he does the punchline, I'm going to hold up two fingers, right? So let's watch this.
But if we get rid of the Confederate flag, how am I going to know who the dangerous white people are?
Laughter. Punchline.
I'm just saying, the flag got a couple upsides, so let's just be real about it. I ain't saying keep it around, but I grew up in the South. I can't tell you how many times the Confederate flag came in handy. You stopping for gas at a strange place at 2 in the morning, you see that flag hanging from the window, you know this is not the place to get gas. They just keep it moving. What's the rush to get rid of the flag? Especially if you're white. If you're white, you should want to keep the flag for a little while longer so at least black folks will know you cool. Because if you're white, you're not a well, that's the one thing that helps us identify you. You get rid of that flag, we'll be, We got to figure out a way to know who the cool white people. Cool white people, we just got to start giving y'all wristbands or hand stamps. Just something you can show in a dark alley. Let us know you down with the struggle. That'd be cool. Give me your money, white dude. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Come on, dude.
Conversational, but it's still following set up punchline. Punchline.
In case it go down, we'll have that wristband on.
We'll do one more.
Atlanta, what's going on? How y'all doing, man? Y'all good? Well, yeah. Thanks a lot, man. Love the South, man. I'm from Birmingham, man. This is good. Birmingham, yeah. Oh, yeah. Birmingham in here. I love the South, man. You know, South, we got some tension. We got our issues, you know. I talked to my uncle about it, you know, my uncle. First thing we need to do is get rid of the N-word. My uncle don't like the N-word. My uncle Derek hate the N-word. My uncle trying to quit the N-word the way people try to quit cigarettes, a little bit at a time.
That's right.
It's a word. Ain't no cravings. Either you say it or you don't.
That's right.
My uncle be calling me every week with updates. I only said it 4 times.
That's right.
Only said it 4 times. Now stop.
All right, so that's your basic, setup and a punchline. That's how things work. Well, now I want to talk about how to put together a routine or put together a set, So you have the set is the entire comedy routine that you do, while you're on stage. The jokes in the set, those are called bits, So like we saw before, he started off talking about the Confederate flag. That was a bit about the Confederate flag. Then he went into his uncle, not liking the N-word. That was the bit about his uncle not liking the N-word. So a set consists of multiple comedy bits. It's sections of your routine, that you do. So the way that you build a set, and this goes into why bombing, is essential. Like I said before, you write your jokes out, however it is, the jokes that you want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. And you find an open mic. If you're not able to find an open mic, you can find a gathering of anybody, family reunion, a Bible study at church, just wherever you can find a group of people to perform. You take your set there to perform, right? And you always record it, right? So when you get started, the jokes that get a laugh or a response, you keep those jokes, right? The jokes that don't get a laugh, you go home, you have to rewrite, you can rearrange the words, you can rewrite it all together, you can deliver it a little better, tweak that part of your set that didn't work well. And then when you go back, try it again. If you go back, and that gets a laugh, keep that. Then you keep going. You repeat that process. That's how comedians, if you watch your favorite comedian on television, that's how all of their jokes are funny. From start to finish, each joke is funny all night. That's because they've gone through months of that process. You write out material and you go back and forth until all of your jokes, are getting a laugh. And that's how you build, a set. Now, the last part that I want to discuss is reading an audience. Now, obviously, sometimes it's easy to read the audience. Sometimes it's not so easy. Sometimes, off the bat what you can talk about with certain crowds. Like you're not going to go to church and talk about getting drunk, you're not going to go, you're not going to go to church and tell jokes that you would tell with your friends, but sometimes it's not so obvious. Sometimes, you kind of wonder if stuff would work with a certain crowd, and comedy is a gamble. Sometimes you're not sure if it'll work or not, but you have to try it, and the more that you go along and the more that you perform and you get better at comedy, the more that you'll be able to read your audiences. You'll have a better sense of what would work with this audience or what would work with that audience, so on and so forth. So that is the end of my presentation. I didn't get a chance to go in depth with this material because I only had a certain amount of time. But if you have questions and if you are interested in it, please hit me up. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. My name is Wan Morgan, W-A-N Morgan. You can find me on there. Send me a message if you have questions. I'll be happy to answer them for